Numerators. Welcome to term 2 with math. In this term, we are going to be starting with everybody's favorite topic, fractions. Woo, woo, woo. You guys love my happy dance, I know you do. Anyway, so we're going to be starting with fractions. And before we get started with what we're covering in fractions for 4th grade, I do want to do a quick review of fractions from your previous years, because this is important information and we're going to be building on all of it with what we're going to be doing with fractions for 4th grade. Fractions are going to actually take up most of term 2. So we're going to be doing a lot of work with fractions, and I want you to feel really comfortable and really familiar with fractions. First of all, I would like for you guys to look linked on the top of this sheet where you're finding this video. There is a link to virtual manipulatives. Manipulatives with fractions are going to be really super helpful. The fraction strips or fraction circles, either one, are really great manipulatives. If you're wanting to order something, Amazon sells them for not a whole lot of money. You can order them from there so you have the physical manipulatives. I actually love using Legos to help with fractions, and I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of how to do that. Or there are also links to printable manipulatives. So there's lots of ways to get your hands on the manipulatives, either virtual that you can use on your computer, printable, or using even things that you have around your house like Legos, okay? So before we get into fractions, let's talk about what is a fraction. What is a fraction? I want you to think about that. I want you to picture in your mind, when you think of fractions, what are you picturing? All right? A fraction has a number on top, and then there's a bar and a number on the bottom, right? And what is it representing? It's representing part of a whole. So if you're thinking about, like, you have a pie, like a pizza pie, all right? And you slice it into pieces and you eat a certain amount of those pieces. You've eaten part of the whole pizza. So the whole represents the pizza, and each slice represents a fraction of the pizza. Same thing with a sandwich. If you have a sandwich and you cut it into 2 slices, those slices represent a fraction of the whole sandwich. So we use a lot of food examples with fractions. Fractions are really big with food. So you cut, you know, a pie, a cake, a pizza, a sandwich. We cut things into smaller bits all the time, and so we use fractions a lot. You also use fractions a lot when you're preparing food. If you think about the measurements of each ingredient, a lot of times those are represented in fractional amounts, okay? So fractions are big with food. When we have a fraction, so first of all, the word fraction, and I'm just going to write this down. If you have a math journal, which I recommend you have, I would recommend writing these words down too, because these vocabulary words are going to be used a lot when we're doing these different lessons, and you want to know what they mean, and you want to be able to refer back to it if you can't remember. So a fraction represents part of a whole. Okay. A fraction has 2 important parts. We have, I'm going to just write an example of a fraction. Let's say I have 3/4, and when I read the fraction, I read the top number out of the bottom number, so 3/4 would be how I would read that. The top number is the numerator, and the numerator stands for the part we are talking about. That's going to be kind of your easy definition. Usually if you're looking at a picture of this would be like the shaded bit. Okay, and then the bottom number is called the denominator. Okay, and the denominator stands for the total number of pieces. So I can really easily draw pictures of fractions, and in fact, I'm going to highly recommend that you're doing that all throughout this unit. Draw pictures of fractions. We always want to see the picture and the fraction next to each other so that we're making that connection in our mind. And if you're consistently doing that, it's going to make understanding fractions a lot easier. So let's look back at our fraction 3/4, right? It could be whatever shape I wanted. I chose to draw a circle. And I'm going to split it into 4 pieces because my denominator is a 4. I'm going to shade in 3 of those pieces because my numerator is a 3. And so my picture right here represents 3/4, okay? Because I have 4 pieces and 3 pieces are shaded in. So that picture represents 3/4. I could also draw it like a rectangle. All right, and I'm going to split it up into 4 pieces. Now I'm drawing, and my drawings aren't perfect, but an important thing about fractions is all the pieces are the same. We talked about with this with division, and actually fractions are another way to represent division. You'll work on that a lot more in 5th grade. But fractions are all about being fair, right? If you're sharing your sandwich with your little brother or your little sister, they're not going to want the smaller piece. They're not going to think that that's fair if you give them the smaller piece, or like if you slice a pizza and every piece that they get is these little tiny pieces and all your pieces are really big pieces, then that's not fair. We want everything to be fair. Okay, so these are 2 ways that I could represent 3/4. Both ways are correct. There's not a better way than another. Sometimes it depends on what you're talking about. If I'm talking about a pizza, I mean, pizzas are usually circular. So, you know, whatever one's easier to draw, really, is how I do it. And sometimes, like, it depends on the fraction. Thirds are kind of hard to do in a circle. It's hard to make them about the same size, but it's a lot easier to do in a rectangle. It's really easy to break that up into 3 pieces versus trying to break this up into 3 pieces that are equal. Okay. So that's what we're talking about, fractions representing part of a whole. The numerator stands for the part that we're talking about, or the shaded in part, and the denominator tells us how many pieces there are total. Now, when it comes to fractions, we have different types of fractions. We have fractions that are equal to 1. And I did ask this question in a morning meeting, and my students were able to answer that. A fraction that is equal to 1 has the same numerator and denominator. Well, if we think about that, right, it has 2 pieces, and I shade in 2 pieces. If I've done that, I've shaded in the whole thing, right? If I have 3/3, same thing. I split it into 3 pieces, and I shade in 3 pieces. I've shaded in the whole thing. So a fraction equal to 1 means it's equal to one whole. I'm actually going to write that. Has the same numerator and denominator. Okay. One other thing that you guys started talking about last year in your math units was equivalent fractions. Fractions that are equal to each other. And we're going to really be focusing on that in the next video, so I'm not going to go into that a whole lot right now, but I just wanted to kind of go over some basic fraction vocabulary, get your brains back into fraction mode, and to let you know about the really great resources that you guys have available that are going to help you when it comes to your fractions units. Okay, so make sure that you have some form of manipulative for fractions, whether you are going to use the link to the fraction online version, whether that is you are going to go into your Lego set and pull out some different size Legos. Like I said, we're going to kind of go over that, or whether that is you do the printable, or even going on Amazon and ordering either fraction strips or fraction circles. One is not necessarily better than the other. They're both great resources. You're going to want to have those, and you're going to be using those throughout all of our fraction lessons. Okay, so make sure you have those. Make sure you're ready to draw fractions out, because we are going to be doing a lot of drawing fractions out. I'm going to be doing that the whole time. All right, so lots of drawing fractions, and let's get ready to just do a great job at learning about fractions. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.